They're images we can't forget. Buckets of frigid water willingly poured onto people's heads.
Back in 2014, it played out over and over. The videos and pictures going viral on social media as the Ice Bucket Challenge swept the world. All of it intended to raise awareness about ALS.
And today, the ALS Association says the Ice Bucket Challenge worked, drawing both attention and much-needed funding to this devastating condition. The progressive neurological disorder gradually robs people of their ability to walk, talk, eat, even breathe. But there's new research showing promise for patients.
Reporter Heather Graff has the inspiring story of one clinical trial participant and the progress he's helping make.
It'll be 40 years in June.
40 years of marriage for Dee and Tim Evans. And as fate would have it, in this love story,
Till death do us part.
their most challenging chapter began on February 14th.
Tim's official diagnosis of ALS was 2/14/14, which is Valentine's Day.
It's now been 10 years since that diagnosis.
ALS has no cure.
And at this stage, the disease has severely impacted Tim's speech and upper body movement.
Tim has to rely on me more to do things for him, to help him.
But at Johns Hopkins Medicine in Baltimore,
Tim, could you open your eyes?
he has found both purpose and hope.
The more I thought about it, do I just want to sit home, do nothing, and die? Or do I want to lend the rest of my life helping others?
Tim volunteered to be the first participant in this study led by Dr. Nathan Crone, who says their focus is on improving quality of life for ALS patients.
He was almost looking for us, as much as we were looking for him.
And now they're experimenting with what's known as a brain-computer interface, or BCI, that can translate brain signals into computer commands. Here, you can see Tim silently mouthing the words up, down, left, right, enter, or back. Researcher Shiu Le says the BCI then uses a special algorithm to turn those thoughts into action, allowing Tim to navigate options through an on-screen communication board and ultimately control smart home devices like the TV or the lights in a room, all without moving or even speaking.
It's just based upon his brain activity. So we're translating his brain activity into commands.
So when he's using the BCI, all he needs to do is to silently mouth the words.
Why is that so important?
The devastating fact is that a lot of people with ALS, they lose all communication, all outside movement. But if we're using the BCI, you can potentially just do this by yourself, and that really gives them a sense of independence and a sense of control in their lives.
The team at Johns Hopkins says Tim has helped prove what's possible.
For this particular study where we were controlling the computer with these commands, the accuracy rate was about 90%.
And in publishing the study's initial results in 2023, they noted the BCI's accuracy held steady throughout a 3-month period without retraining or recalibration, adding, "Our results may be one of the first steps in realizing the potential for independent home use."
Simple thing that most people take for granted.
It improves the quality of life. Rather than relying on somebody to do it for you, he can still do it for himself.
Tim and Dee view it as a potential game changer, but they also admit there were some concerns going into all of this, specifically the surgery Tim needed to implant the BCI on his brain.
It was pretty scary, I'll be honest.
We discussed all of these risks with Tim and his family. Any kind of device that's implanted in the brain has some risks. The biggest risk is with infection.
It was roughly about a 5-hour surgery. We talked a lot about it, but ultimately it was his decision, and I agreed.
As we sit here today, no regrets.
Any regrets? No, not at all.
It's a risk versus benefit scenario that, according to the ALS Association, is not uncommon in the quest for breakthroughs against this debilitating disease.
You know, is this a drug that's safe for me? Is this a treatment that's safe for me? Is this a procedure that's safe for me? These are really legitimate questions.
Kuldip Dave is a neuroscientist and the association's vice president of research.
So our recommendation would be, if you are nervous about a brain procedure, speak to a neurologist and assess with your physician. Having said that, this is why these clinical studies are important.
And while he's not involved with the Johns Hopkins BCI work, Dave says he's been closely following their results.
This is real-world impact research, and we want to get it into the hands of people living with ALS.
So the next step in this study is for Tim to soon start testing out the technology at home.
Make the best of it.
And that positive outlook,
My hero.
plus his commitment to the cause,
You know, to help other people with ALS in the future.
are just a few of the many things that Dee will forever love about her husband.
Come Valentine's Day, I always say we celebrate life now. We don't celebrate Valentine's Day.
Their story
I know eventually he's going to pass,
still being written.
but, you know, until that day happens, he's with me through thick and thin.
The study Tim is taking part in at Johns Hopkins is funded by the National Institutes of Health, and they are actively looking for additional trial participants.
Meanwhile, the ALS Association is the largest private funder of ALS research. They say that viral Ice Bucket Challenge led to a nearly 200% increase in its annual budget for research. Over the past 10 years, the number of ALS clinics has more than doubled nationwide, and the FDA approved 2 new treatments, bringing the total available to 3.